Hello and welcome. I'm Matthew C. Scaro.
I'm Deji Kufarici.
On my right, once again, Clint Battersby. On my left, Daniel Kufarigi. And this is MMA in the Basement. This past weekend, we saw UFC Fight Night 116. Luke Rockhold took on David Branch. Next week, we'll be talking about UFC 117, Ovin St. Preux versus Okami. But I think the thing that's on everyone's mind right now is the controversial decision between Canelo Alvarez and Triple G. Deji, I saw you looking at the scorecard. What information do you have for us? What can you tell us?
So it was a split decision draw. I think that's what they call it, or something like that. So in the blue corner, or on the scorecard, that was David Moretti. He had it 15-13, Triple G, Gennady Golovkin, which I think a lot of people probably thought that's the way the fight should have gone. In the pink corner was a draw by Don Torella, 14-14. It's a little bit harder to say it's a draw. And then the scorecard that everybody's talking about is Adelaide Bird's 118-110.
Yeah.
And even if you liked Canelo, even if you loved him, I don't think anybody saw it for that big a discrepancy in the scoring.
Daniel, I mean, what do you think? I kind of agree with Deji.
I agree with him 100%. There was no way it was 118-110 for Canelo in that fight. I myself had it for Triple G. I think 115-113 was an appropriate score. I can also see it as a draw too, though. I saw the 114-114 draw. That made a lot of sense too, but the 118-110 was just absurd. That was completely absurd.
I totally agree. I remember thinking in my head that I thought that Triple G won it by one round, but I totally think that a draw was reasonable. But then Adelaide Bird, I cannot see that scorecard. I thought that was totally just wrong, frankly. And that's not the first time we've seen a bad scorecard from Adelaide Bird. So anyway, let's move on to Rockhold versus Branch. We can start with the main event. I think maybe did you get a chance to check it out, Clint? What did you think?
Absolutely. It was very funny to me because I was going back and forth with Deji over here, and the first round of that fight was a really big barn burner as far as Branch really handed it to him. There was Luke was taking punches and he was eating them, and it looked like it was a dominant first round. And before you knew it, second round started, and it's like Luke figured out, you know what, maybe I shouldn't punch with this guy, and took it to the ground where he ground and pounded him out. And I've been under the thought process that guys that come into the UFC and fight the bigger name guys tend to lose some of their steam when they do that. And that hasn't been the case for most.
I agree with you. No, we've seen them underperform sometimes, right?
Yes, and I felt like I was talking to Deji, and
Yeah,
we were going back and forth as far as he's like, oh, did you see that first round? And I'm like sitting there eating a little crow, like I've been doing all this talking, and all of a sudden he's handing it to him. Before you know it, pounds him out, and the rest is history at that point. It was like.
Daniel, do you think that Luke Rockhold will have a career as a commentator after he's done?
Definitely not. Could barely finish a speech that he had at the end of the fight. But I really think that Luke. All I could hear in that first round was Edmund just saying, head movement, head movement, head movement. That's all I heard.
Yeah.
For some reason, he could not move his head. I mean, he was just like a punching bag. Like, if anyone with decent power was in there, he would have knocked him out, in my opinion.
I don't think he's a boxer. I don't think he can fight on the inside. Mm-hmm. He's very rangy. He has long arms. But when it comes down to a pure boxer, that's why I think Bisping had great success, and I think Branch had a good first round because he doesn't know how to fight on the inside. So that's what we saw, and he weathered that storm, like Clint said, and made it to the second round and got on top of him and had Branch tap it.
All right, thoughts on the Gregor Gillespie versus Jason Gonzalez fight? I thought that was amazing. I thought Gregor Gillespie just looked awesome and
Fight of the night.
Yeah.
For me, that was the most exciting fight where that first round was back and forth with heavy blows going back and forth. And one of the comments I did make to Deji about that fight as well was that to me is like true MMA. That's what mixed martial arts is all about. Going to the ground and figuring out a way to get out of ground control, and basically it was like all over the place. It was boxing, it was jiu-jitsu, it was all over the board as far as like what mixed martial arts is about at this point. And I loved that fight.
yeah. Go ahead, Deji.
No, I was going to say that's one of those cult classics. Those are one of those fights that we're going to look back and say, hey, do you remember Gillespie versus Gonzalez? Because it started with head kicks. I think Gonzalez was throwing those long legs, you know.
Yeah.
And Gillespie looks like a stud. He's one of those guys we have to keep an eye on and see where he's going to go in his career.
Did anyone else think it reminded them of Nick Diaz versus Paul Daly?
Yeah.
Yes,
Very
that back
good
and forth. That was
comparison.
exactly.
That's
a
a
good call.
very good comparison.
Another good fight. Mike Perry taking on Alex Reyes. My goodness,
that
Mike
was-
looked like a beast, didn't he?
Platinum.
That was
I think Mike-
unbelievable. He did a really good job in that fight. I mean, his opponent did come in 3 days notice. You know, that's a tough guy to come in on 3 days notice, out of your weight class. You know, trying to keep up with that power of Mike. That's ridiculous.
He's a murderer.
Yeah, that
Absolutely.
guy. He looks unbeatable, even though he hasn't been beaten in the UFC. But when he looks that good and he's on, he looks scary.
Mike Perry has called out Robbie Lawler, I believe.
That's a tough call out, man. I understand he wants to brawl, but I don't think he has a chin for the power of Lawler. But it's a fun call out. I think people are excited about it. You know, and that's what these young kids have to do. They have to call out those veterans and try to get a name for themselves. But I think it's a tough call.
I'm going to disagree with you. I think Mike Perry does have a chin to last with Robbie Lawler. I think if he bites down his mouthpiece, he's ready to go. I honestly don't think Lawler has the chin for Mike Perry's power, to be honest with you.
Now, if it goes to the 5th round, Clint, can Mike Perry handle 5th round Robbie?
Robot Robbie?
My goodness.
You know what? To be honest with you, it's one of those where he's so new to the game right now. I don't know what version of him we're gonna get. So I'm so like him calling out a veteran like Lawler, to me, just makes me feel like it's an open book as far as like what's going to happen. We really can't predict what's going to happen for that, and that's what makes it so exciting for these young guys to come in and start calling out some of these veterans, because it's for so long it's been top 5 guys only fight these guys, and now it's getting to the point where these young up and comers are coming into the UFC and they're making their own fights.
Yeah.
That's something
That's what they
that's
have to do, especially in this world where it's, you know, super fights and just throwing anybody in the pot. It's a good call for Perry, man. It made me sit up in my seat when I heard it. I didn't think about it. I was like, oh yeah, let's do this.
Yeah, left field. Came out of left field.
Absolutely.
Well, speaking of things to look forward to, September 22nd, Ovince St. Preux taking on Yushin Okami at the Saitama Super Arena. I think the co-main event, though, in my opinion, might be the most interesting fight. Claudia Gadelha taking on Jessica Andrade. I think Claudia Gadelha is the second best strawweight to ever fight. Do you agree?
I do agree. I think she, honestly, is also one fight away from fighting John Jacek again for the 3rd time. And I think she can handle Jessica, to be honest with you. After her move to her new team now, she seems to be on a tear. I think she just finished defeating Carolina, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
I think by submission also, which was pretty impressive. So I think she's on her way for big things.
Now, okay, so if she wins this fight, if she beats Andrade, Deji, number one, does she deserve a title shot against Joanna Jędrzejczyk, and do you want to see it a 3rd time?
I do. I think that's honestly the best rivalry that the UFC has right now. People really don't speak about it that much, but it was a lot of hate in the house. They've had 2 fights now, and both of those fights were fucking cunt hair close. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry about my language, but it was close, right?
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
Absolutely.
They were.
I felt like they were close, but I felt like I felt like Joanna clearly won both of them.
I think the second one more than the first one.
Yeah, I honestly think the first one, without a doubt, I think Claudia won
that fight.
First fight.
I believe
If
so.
if you go back and rewatch it, it was a close fight, but I think Claudia, because in the first 2 rounds she took her down
Yeah.
quite a few times. So I mean, in MMA now with takedowns, as long as you can hold it down for a good 10 seconds, that's usually pretty good.
You get points for that.
You know, you get a lot of points for that. So I think just by her, actually, you have to understand, by even just getting a takedown shows what kind of skill you have, that you're able to take someone down, even if it's for 1 second. You're able to bring a fight to a certain area.
And
You know?
Joanna is pretty good at fighting off those takedowns. We've
Correct.
seen it time and time again from that woman. And for those 2 girls, I really think this is a rivalry I'd love to see again. I want to see again. I love that trash talk, especially leading up to it. So yes, I would want to see again. Does she deserve it? Is there a couple of people that might be in the queue for Joanna? Maybe, possibly, but she has to get by Rose.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
She has
That
to
is
get by
very true.
Rose. If she gets by Rose, that's the next one up.
I feel like this is a Joseph Benavidez DJ situation, you know, but
I think it's a better matchup though.
yeah.
I think it's really close. These girls are really close in skill sets.
You know, there's one thing that you mentioned though, Daniel, that I did want to touch on, which is that oftentimes we hear people say that if they get a takedown but they don't do anything with it, then there should be no points awarded for that. And I've always disagreed with that. And my logic is that a takedown in and of itself is actually also a strike. If you really think about it, I mean, you can
100%.
injure someone by taking them down.
Yes, you can.
So I think that it's always a little bit odd when people say that they should be awarded. No
It's mixed
I mean-
martial arts. Sorry to cut you off. It's mixed martial arts. Every aspect of every game is included in this. So
Yeah.
I think you're
I mean, I'm not sure if I'm getting this exactly right, but wasn't Woodley versus Condon? Didn't he take him down? Condon ended up blowing his knee out or something
I think it was
happened.
from a kick.
I thought it was from a kick too, but
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. But anyways, takedowns, in my opinion, like you said, are like strikes. They're
And
they're
people have
a
been knocked
tool
out.
that's been
People
used.
have been knocked out from
100%.
takedowns.
So yeah.
All right, OSP, Yushin Okami. Obviously, this wasn't the fight that was meant to be. It was supposed to be Shogun. Are you guys still excited about it? Clint, what do you think? Open St. Peru taking on Yushin.
To be honest with you, I kind of feel like it's like a throw-in. Like I didn't like we were talking beforehand where I didn't even know Okami was in the UFC until I saw the fight card and the lineup for the card. So that fight wasn't what was going to get me to watch the fight anyways. The old school nerd in me is excited to see Gomi fight Kim.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, it's one of those things where I want to see if Gomi still has it, if Gomi can still go. He's going to be in front of his own hometown crowd, maybe not his hometown, but he's going to be in front of the Japanese crowd, just like back in the Pride days. And I want him to. I want to see what he's going to do. I want to see what he's going to bring to the table. I do want to see the St. Preux fight, but it's one of those things where that's just bonus on top of my Gomi fight. So I want to see if Gomi still has it. He's shown in his last couple fights, it seems like he's fallen off a little bit. So it's like, is that the end? That's what I want to see. Yeah.
I wanted to bring up something because this is a 205 fight, right? The main event. And with all the turmoil and everything going on at 205, this puts anybody back in contendership because they need fighters.
That's true.
And OSP he's really athletic. I think he needs to work on his stand-up. I think he is still a little awkward. But in the UFC, 205 is wide open. A couple of good fights. If he knocks out Okami, I mean, he's back at it, man. He's back at it, and he's back in title contendership. Even though he's not the first person I think of as someone that's going to fight for the belt, but because it's so thin up there, you never know.
Very true.
I kind of feel bad for Owens a little bit, just because, even though a win over Shogun, if that was to happen, would help him a little bit. But him fighting Okami, you know, short notice, Okami not being in the UFC for a couple years, you know, it just, I just kind of feel bad. Because I think if he beats Okami, I really don't think it does much for his career. I really don't think it jumps him up to the echelon of.
Didn't the
UFC.
Barbarian just beat out Okami? Is that the one where he got all those uppercuts?
He did, but that was years ago.
Tim Bosch? Oh yeah.
Tim
yeah.
Bosch.
That was-
So
that
that
was-
wasn't his last fight, though.
No.
was it?
Tim
No.
Bosch did win a fight just recently, I believe, but I forget who.
Okay, because I just that's the last images I remember of Okami getting those
Yeah.
wicked uppercuts.
Oh, what a way to remember it.
Yes, right.
Yeah, and this might, who knows? I mean, I don't know how much longer Shogun has left in him, so
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping to see this fight, but we'll see, I
Definitely.
suppose. Speaking of which, I think that's probably going to wrap it up for us, so check back here next week, and this is MMA in the Basement, signing out.